Welcome to Recovery Corner, where the many pathways of recovery intersect. This is a space where you will hear personal stories of triumph in recovery, gain insights into various recovery oriented systems, and learn how leaders across the country are building recovery ready communities. Recovery Corner is brought to you by Young People in Recovery. YPR is a recovery support service organization that engages people in and seeking all pathways of recovery, as well as their allies. The Recovery Corner podcast does not provide clinical advice.
Well, let's just start off with welcoming folks to the podcast and happy to be here with y'all today. And thanks for listening. So, my name is Emily Burks, and I am the Colorado program manager in beautiful Denver, Colorado. My connection to recovery is identify as an ally to the recovery community. I come from a family with a lot of people who struggle with substance use and who I have seen have major life disruptions and even lose their lives to substances. So this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I really love working with YPR, and it's incredible to feel like I'm a part of the solution and helping people I love and care about who still struggle with substances and honoring those who have passed on. How about you, Coreen? You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Emily. My name's Coreen Braden. I'm a person in long-time recovery, and just being in recovery is such a powerful experience. It's really given me the ability to achieve a life that one can only dream of having, a higher quality life that empowers me and brings hope to other people as well. I finally am able to be open and honest with my family and create a safe living environment for myself and my children, and really being able to add that commitment piece to my goals and dreams equation. And so living this life is a dream come true.
Love that. Beautiful. Okay, cool. Well, so Coreen, you and I are going to be talking today just about basically how amazing you are and the wonderful work that you do with YPR, primarily around your advocacy work and all the, change that you've brought about in your community as a result of that work. Also, want to highlight the fact that YPR in this 2022 National Leadership Conference actually came up with an award and named it after you in honor of your incredible advocacy work, which is really incredible and definitely well deserved. So without the award, you already would have left a huge legacy with YPR. You already are creating a huge legacy as we speak. But I really love that now there's something that's like going to be etched in some sort of award now and forevermore. All the future advocates with your name on it. I don't know. I think that's pretty special though.
It is super special. It's phenomenal. It reminds me of watching the Flintstones and how when I was younger, I would watch Fred Flintstone utilize that stone, right? And chisel in the message. And that is exactly what's happening here. My presence, my dedication, my discipline is being chiseled in. And that feels just, like I said, phenomenal to be able to leave this imprint with YPR, and equally YPR has imprinted on me and the recovery process and my journey, my pathway. And so it's a outstanding way to just be recognized for that. And I'm just so thankful, and it really was left without words when I was awarded this fantastic show of achievement. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely well deserved. Yeah, so the award itself is, well, the first one awarded to you, obviously, was the inaugural Coreen Braden Distinguished Service Award, which, like, my, oh my. But I was asking a few folks in leadership, like, tell us about this work, because we had been in conversation about like really wanting to recognize and uplift the work that you've done, and basically, elevate your work in such a way that other people can see it as sort of this like gold standard for something to strive for. So I asked Rocky to like kind of summarize what that was, and he said it was to recognize your dedication to the mission of young people in recovery through your influential advocacy work that you achieved in Arapahoe County and in that community. So I thought that was really, really neat for sure. And
Very special.
yeah, I mean, big shoes to fill for the 2023 NLC Coreen Braden Distinguished Award recipient. So eager to see what happens there. But let's dive in more. I mean, I know that you and I have been chosen to have this conversation, not only to talk about the work that you've done, but also just in honor of Women's History Month. And so I just like want to recognize as another woman in the workplace. We've had the pleasure of working together, I think around like 4.5 years now, just like how wonderful it is to be on a team with another strong woman and other strong women on our team as well. And it's just a really exciting place to be in terms of the world of work, to get to celebrate together as women.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. It's really just being comfortable in the skin that we're in, and being able to be recognized for that, on my recovery journey and during this path, I've been really working on taking up space, right? The space in a crowd, the space that I sit in, the being comfortable in my own skin, and being comfortable with myself and my own body language and the words that I utilize. And it just is such an empowering growth and step to be a woman today in this world. And I can only thank all the women before us who have created and paved such an excellent path to follow and lead on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, I talk about this a lot with like other women in my life too. Like, I just don't think, especially from folks in our generation, like we weren't always like, it's like girl power for sure, but it's not always like speak up, be loud, take up space in that way. Like, I think it's like girl power with an asterisk sometimes. So I really love that now, like as we move through, the 2020s, that we're able to really get loud and take up space and be unapologetic and know that like our ideas matter, our voices matter, like our perspectives are actually really important, because we haven't always historically had the microphone to shout into. So I think that there's a lot of value in that. And yeah, it's just really cool to see that kind of taking shape and coming to fruition, both in our organization, across like the recovery movement, and just in the world in general. So super neat.
Agreed.
Okay, I've got some questions for you. I guess we kind of talked about this. I'm just like blabbing on here, but how long have you been working at YPR, and what has that experience looked like for you kind of from the inception of your career here to now?
Sure. So I started in August of 2017. So I will be coming up on a full 6 years at YPR this coming August, which is astonishing. Feels great. It feels, it really feels like part of my life. It doesn't feel like work, which is a humbling experience, because not a lot of people can say that they get up and they live their life, right? And so to be able to wake up and be able to make a difference and work diligently in an area that I'm not only living personally, but I'm striving to find that path for other people to walk on and live. So overall, working for YPR is absolutely I keep saying a dream. It really is. It really is a dream. It's a way to just feel that connection with like-minded people And I don't know how many times somebody can say that they've worked for an organization for 6 years and haven't had one single run-in or negative conversation with somebody in the workplace. I think that really speaks loudly on the mindset of all of the individuals that work for YPR, the leaders, the coworkers, the phenomenal leadership that happens within YPR, the ability for those leaders to look at the team and view us as leaders as well. It creates that workspace where we can make a difference. We are motivated to make a difference. And never would I have thought that 6 years of focusing on a specific topic would not be daunting. And it's not. It's still, to this day, I'm excited, I'm motivated. Every day I look up and I look at my to-do list, and it just gets longer and longer and longer because
Right.
the recovery world does not stop. Every day we are in recovery. Every ally to recovery, the passion, the joy, and that meaning does not stop. It's like Fred Flintstone. It's chiseled in. It's not going to go away. Yeah. So it just will be, and has been such a heartfelt experience to be involved in such a movement that recognizes every aspect of life, whether man, woman, people of color, people who are of the queer population, people who are houseless, people. We as YPR recognize everybody, and I really cannot say how special that is. And it really, really reflects on the work that we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that as well. And I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people in these roles experience burnout. I think they can experience compassion fatigue, we get worn down because there are a lot of walls that we run into. We do hear a lot of no's. We do hear a lot of radio silence when we try to reach out and build connection with, partners in the community. And so it can be really disheartening sometimes too. Like, I don't want to try to sugarcoat that, because yes, this job can be a dream, and it also can be really, really hard. But I think, like, you speaking to your experience and the ability to sustain in this role really does, kind of like you said, it really is a nod to how we do try to be intentional about, making sure that we're emphasizing self-care, and we're taking care, pouring into your own cup first. So you're not pouring from the cup, because you can't do that, and so I think that has kind of evolved over time, for sure. And I'm not saying that men or, non-binary folks, anyone couldn't contribute to that kind of community culture. But I do think that is, in a large sense, something that we can thank, like, the women in our leadership for. And, just being a part of these conversations together, I think really kind of underpins how much we care about each other, and how, like, nurturing this work can be, as long as we have people on our teams kind of supporting each other and looking out for one another too. So I think that's an important thing to note, for sure, as well.
Yes. And Emily, I just want to give you all the accolades for what you've just said. You are an example of practice what you preach. And if it was not for you, I don't know that I would shine as bright in this role that I do shine. And so I just want to thank you for that. You have been such a great inspiration to me on my recovery journey, helping me find a voice, helping me set boundaries. You're such a wonderful leader and inspiration and person all around. And I just can't thank you enough for what you've given me in this role.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's so sweet. And I try, and it's also not very hard because I just see myself as like, kind of reflecting people's life back. But I think being able to reflect off one another makes us even greater for sure. So thank you for saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love this hype up vibe we got going for each other, but I also want to make sure that we talk about like your boots on the ground advocacy work because it's badass and it's
Absolutely.
important. We were chatting about this in a little bit of detail before, but I want to make sure that folks listening can hear about your advocacy initiative, the impact that it's had, maybe even in challenges that you've experienced like thus far, and the direction that you see things going in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the advocacy work that the Arapahoe chapter has been focusing on really falls underneath the harm reduction umbrella. That being said, in addition to harm reduction, the Arapahoe chapter has been working greatly on education with creating awareness about fentanyl in the illicit drug population there, and what fentanyl is doing to our community, how we can prevent overdoses. One big thing that I like to say is we're not DARE. We are not a DARE program. We are not telling you not to use drugs. We are telling you that you are an important person, and we want to help you reduce that harm that drugs can bring to you as an individual. And so with that, there comes all sorts of caveats along with that, right? So there's being able to prevent that overdose, being able to understand our rights, being able to understand the vagueness of the Good Samaritan law, which is different in every state. And it's there to protect us, but it also seems that with people who have lived experience that they're not being protected. Yeah. And so while I want to celebrate the work that myself and the chapter as a whole has done, you want to talk about some challenges. That is one of the biggest challenges, is as I'm advocating for people to reduce harm to themselves, I'm also telling them that they need to call 911 and that they could be protected because of this law that's out here. And
sorry to butt in, but can you just kind of give us like a brief overview of what the Good Sam law is? Because I think there may be some people listening who don't know what that is. Can you just kind of give us a general sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Good Samaritan law in Colorado is designed to give a person immunity if and when they experience an overdose or they are there to witness and reverse an overdose.
That's legal, right?
Pardon?
Legal immunity?
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So anytime there are drugs in possession and paraphernalia in possession, and we as an individual call 911 because it is super important that we call 911 in the event of an overdose, those drug possession charges, one will have immunity for those drug charges. And also the person who called 911 and administered Narcan, that person will get immunity if there were any adverse side effects, if the person did not make it, if say for instance, I'm at a restaurant and I see somebody choking. We'll just kind of take it out in a broader perspective here. But if I see somebody choking at a restaurant, I'm going to just jump right into action and give that person the Heimlich maneuver. Say, for example, I cracked that person's rib and they undergo a heck of a lot of pain. They're hurting and they decide, hey, I'm going to sue Coreen for cracking my rib. They will not be able to sue me because I acted in good faith to save that person's life. And so that's kind of just a stand back overall example of the intentions of the Good Samaritan law here in Colorado.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think this year in particular, I know you've been working on it in the past year too, but I think this year in particular, like you've been to testify in support of the Good Sam law, in support of the changes that you see are necessary to better language the law, I guess, to support people in the community to actually make those calls to 911, to make sure that the overdose reversals that are being done with the Narcan that you're distributing can also, those folks can also receive follow-up care, ideally survive, and even more ideally, hopefully go on to find a recovery pathway that works for them.
Yes.
So wondering if you can talk a little bit about the changes that you feel like you'd like to see, a little bit of that that you shared when you were testifying in support of those changes, just like last month. It was pretty recent, right?
It was, yeah. So some of the changes that needs to take place is when someone is on probation or parole and or has a warrant out for their arrest, that person is not covered under the Good Samaritan law. And so I'm working on a team with the Colorado Consortium for Drug Abuse and Overdose Prevention, and wonderful team there. We so many knowledgeable folks, but really just striving to make that change to where all bodies are covered with that immunity when calling 911. Also, right now, as it stands, the Good Samaritan law covers the person that is called and the person experiencing that overdose. And oftentimes it takes a couple of people, right? One person to administer, one person to call, one person to give rescue breaths. I mean, it's a group effort. And right now, the Good Samaritan law only covers those two people, the person that calls and then the person experiencing. And so that really needs to change. Folks are put into a rock and a hard spot with this. We want people to be able to recover, and we cannot recover if we're dead. And if we are in that heat of the moment, because experiencing an overdose or witnessing an overdose rather is pretty scary.
Yeah.
And if we're faced with having to make a split decision, do I protect myself? Right? Do I listen to that airline that tells me to put my oxygen on first and then help someone else? Yeah. Or do I save this person that's not breathing right in front of me and chance being put in jail? Do I chance being put in jail, which jeopardizes the rest of my future, unfortunately? And so, we as humans are faced with that split decision. And it's really creating some barriers there. And so just striving to make that bridge over that barrier and getting legislatures who maybe, I don't want to speak for them, but maybe don't understand and aren't educated enough to walk this path. Yeah. Get them to change their viewpoint, look through different goggles, right? View this as in a different perspective. So that's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is really important. I think that you made a really good point just about lack of education or just general misunderstanding about substance use and about, these Good Sam laws too. I think that, you've shared a few stories in the past with me just about, people's different perception of what the law is and what that means. And I think you're absolutely right. When faced with a high, like in a crisis situation, which is what an overdose can be, even though sometimes it really looks very slow and very quiet, it's still a crisis. And that, can overhaul our brains in a way that doesn't allow us to really think super clearly. And, every human life matters. No one human life is more important than another, but to be forced to be in a position to make, a decision about your life versus that person's life, that's just like such an unfair and impossible place to be in. So if there was more like clear understanding and education available, which I know you're trying, which is a big part of your efforts. I just think that people would be more informed and protected community members who are going to be the people in those situations to step up and make, not to say the right decision, but a decision to help save a community member's life. And that's like a really important thing. So, so tell me, so that all being said, tell me like how you envision next steps for your advocacy effort. Like, where do you want to see things end up, by the end of this year, like in an ideal outcome scenario? What would that look like for you and your
Sure. Well, there's a couple different avenues that I really want to jog down. I feel like, making these changes within the legislature is super important. I think that's something that's always intimidated me.
Sure.
Yeah. And I am no longer intimidated. I have roared my way through that intimidation, and just kind of striving through making that change within the legislature is going to be number one there. Making change to the Good Samaritan law where people automatically feel comfortable and aren't faced with that split decision, right? So working with different policymakers and elected officials who are on the side of recovery and who view the recovery path as an important process. Just working with them and being able to maybe have an educational series where everybody is involved and they can really understand the process of recovery and understand that every individual has different walks of life, has different reasons why they are utilizing substances to begin with, and just to be able to try to wrap their heads around that process. That's where it's going to start. In addition to that, it's super important that everybody has access to be able to call 911. And so for those of us folks who can't afford a cell phone, I would really like to see cell phones be given out. There is an organization called Obama Phone where phones are given out for free. However, people who are unhoused are not able to charge those phones. And so I'd really like to see the cities and the counties take some accountability for that and provide some sort of charging station, some sort of, there's all sorts of electrical poles all around the city. Let's put an outlet, a couple outlets around there, or, something along those lines to where we give access for people to be able to call 911. Yeah. And so that's super important. And also I would really like to go down the lines of more harm reduction agencies being opened up within the community. Now, I don't necessarily know that that's going to be able to happen within the next year.
Sure.
But these are my visions. These are my dreams.
Big. We love it.
Yeah. And so those dreams will come into play within the next couple years for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, how you envision the future of your advocacy work, because I do think that the more you get involved in advocating for these things, the more you're seeing like all the details and all the necessary steps in order to make that possible for our community and for communities, across Colorado as well, hopefully across the country. Because that charging station piece, I remember when you first brought that up, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Even things like people wanting to contact treatment centers or shelters or recovery houses, like we can give them all the resources in the world, but if they don't have transportation, if they aren't able to communicate on the phone, then that's like a huge limitation. So I do think we're if we have all these resources, we got to give people the ability to connect with them. And especially, making that call to 911 too is incredibly vital in the most real sense, reason that we need to give people those resources and those opportunities, to be, part of their community in that way, and be supported in that way too. So I think it's incredible. I'm really proud of you and all the work that you've done, and super stoked to see what comes next. And yeah, I think it's about time we wrap up, but wondering if there's like anything that you feel like is important to add before we sign off.
Yeah, so I was crunching some numbers this morning before and in anticipation of our conversation today. And just over the last few years that the Arapahoe chapter has been up and running under my lead, I am so ecstatic to say that there has been close to 50,000 doses of Narcan being distributed within the community. And with those efforts to really provide that free access to Narcan, I wrote down some statistics that I found from the CDPHE website. In 2021, there were 1,258 opioid-related overdose deaths. With the efforts of not just the Arapahoe County chapter, but with all of those efforts that other organizations in collaboration with myself have been put into play, in 2022, 778 people overdosed. And so that number is lowering. Yeah. And I am a part of that. I'm a part of that solution. I'm a part of being able to save those lives, being able to reduce that harm. And so super, super excited about that. And I cannot wait to see the drop in that number when 2023 statistics come out.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think that's so exciting and so encouraging to hear. And I think, just thinking about everyone who's been involved to help contribute to those numbers decreasing is really inspiring to think about. And yeah, how many powerful women have also been a part of that too. I mean, we have some pretty badass women in government in the Denver, and across Colorado area as well. So really excited that we have those folks on our side to help advocate, on that level for Good Sam stuff. Boots on the ground, such as yourself. You're kind of straddling that line of kind of getting to be on both sides of that, which is really awesome. And like we said, the women in leadership within YPR as well. So just cool to see that, yes, it takes a village, and there are people who identify of all different genders that have led to this really impactful, powerful change, and the direction that we're heading. But it's also important to recognize just the impact of women too, and people who identify as women in this movement. So it's really exciting. And I want to encourage people to go on our website and check out what you're doing, to see your events online if they want to join in, and just read more about how to be a part of the recovery movement, be a part of YPR, and help be a part of our badass team of women creating for the community.
Yes, well said. Well, thank you so much for your time, Emily. And again, thanks for the opportunity to have this microphone and be able to talk about my experience and my achievements. And yeah, so thank you very much for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for listening, y'all.